Jake Morrison stared out the window of the UCS Ranger as it moved through space. The stars looked the same as they always did, but something felt wrong today. He had been a Marine for 10 years and learned to trust his gut feelings. His team was getting ready for another routine patrol mission to check on New Montana Colony. The ship's captain, Bill Jackson, called all Marines to the main deck. Jake walked with his 7 teammates to hear what the captain had to say. The other Marines were Tony Garcia, Steve Miller, Rick Brown, Pete Davis, Matt Wilson, Dan Taylor, and Chris Lee. They had worked together for 3 years and knew each. Other Captain Jackson looked serious when he spoke to them. He told them that New Montana had sent out a distress signal 2 days ago. The signal said that unknown ships were attacking the colony. All contact with New Montana stopped after that first message. The UCS Ranger was the closest ship and had orders to help the colonists. Jake felt his stomach drop. New Montana was home to 50,000 people. Most of them were families who had left Earth to start new lives. The colony grew food and mined rare metals that Earth needed. If something bad happened to New Montana, it would hurt many people. The ship's crew worked hard to get to New Montana as fast as possible. Jake and his team checked their weapons and gear. Each Marine carried a pulse rifle, grenades, medical supplies, and communication equipment. Jake also had special gear because he was the team scout. He could move quietly and see enemies from far away. During the long trip to New Montana, Jake could not shake the bad feeling in his chest. He had seen many colonies before, and they were usually busy places with ships coming and going. But the space around New Montana was completely empty. No cargo ships, no passenger vessels, nothing at all. When the UCS Ranger finally reached New Montana, Jake knew his fears were right. The planet looked dead from space. No lights showed from the cities at night. No radio signals came from the surface. The orbital stations that should have been there were gone. Only pieces of metal floated where the stations used to be. Captain Jackson tried to contact anyone on the planet, but no one answered. The silence was scary. Jake looked at his teammates and saw the same worry on their faces. Something terrible had happened here, but they did not know what. The captain decided to send Jake's team down to the planet to look for survivors. Maybe some people were hiding and too scared to use their radios. The Marines would land near the main city and search for any signs of life. The UCS Ranger would stay in orbit and watch for danger. Jake led his team into the dropship. The small vessel would take them to the planet's surface. As they flew down through the atmosphere, Jake looked out the window at the land below. New Montana should have had green farms and busy cities. Instead, he saw burned ground and destroyed buildings. The dropship landed outside what used to be New Helena, the colony's main city. Jake and his team stepped out onto the planet's surface. The air smelled like smoke and death. Buildings were knocked down or burned. Cars and trucks were scattered around like toys. Worst of all, there were no bodies anywhere. Jake sent Tony and Steve to check the eastern part of the city. Rick and Pete went north. Matt and Dan searched the south. Chris stayed with Jake to look at the government buildings in the center of town. They agreed to meet back at the dropship in 4 hours. Jake and Chris walked through the empty streets. Their boots made loud sounds on the broken concrete. Every building they checked was empty. Doors were left open. Food was still on tables, but no people were anywhere. It was like everyone had just disappeared. In the government building, Jake found something that made his blood run cold. There were scratch marks on the walls that looked like they came from giant claws. The metal doors were torn apart like paper. Whatever did this was much stronger than any human. Chris found a computer. That was still working. He tried to access the colony's security cameras to see what happened. Most of the cameras were destroyed, but one camera near the spaceport was still recording. The video showed the last few hours before the colony died. Jake watched the screen and saw ships coming down from the sky. But these were not human ships. They were strange and dark, with shapes that hurt to look at. Creatures came out of the ships, but the video was too fuzzy to see them clearly. The creatures moved through the city very fast. Within hours, all the humans were gone. The video ended suddenly when something destroyed the camera. Jake and Chris looked at each other with fear. This was not a normal attack. No human enemy could have done this so quickly and completely. Jake tried to call his other teammates on the radio, but he only heard static. He tried to contact the UCS Ranger in orbit, but got no answer. Something was blocking their communications. Jake told Chris they needed to get back to the dropship right away. As they ran through the streets, Jake heard a sound that made him stop. It was a low humming noise coming from the sky. He looked up and saw something that made his heart nearly stop beating. Huge dark ships were coming down through the clouds. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Jake grabbed Chris and they ran as fast as they could toward the dropship. Behind them, the alien ships were landing all over the city. Jake could hear strange sounds and see lights flashing. They were not alone on New Montana anymore. When they reached the dropship, the other Marines were already there. Everyone looked scared and confused. Tony reported that they had found the same thing everywhere: empty buildings, destroyed equipment, and no people. The colony was completely dead. Jake looked up at the sky and saw something that filled him with horror. The UCS Ranger was exploding in bright flashes of light. Pieces of the ship were falling toward the planet like burning stars. Their ride home was gone, and with it, everyone Jake cared about on the ship. The alien ships were getting closer. Jake could see creatures moving around them now. He made a quick decision that would change everything. He told his team to grab their gear and run toward the mountains. They could not fight all these aliens, but maybe they could hide and survive. As Jake ran with his team away from the landing zone, he looked back one more time. The dropship exploded behind them. Now they were truly alone on a planet full of enemies with no way to call for help and no way to escape. Jake and his 7 Marines ran through the rocky hills as fast as they could. Behind them, the alien ships covered the sky like a dark cloud. The sounds of landing craft and strange alien voices filled the air. Jake knew they had to find a place to hide before the creatures found them. Tony Garcia was breathing hard as they climbed up a steep hill. He asked Jake how many alien ships there were. Jake had tried to count them while they were running, but there were too many. He guessed there might be 1,000 ships, maybe more. Each ship looked big enough to carry hundreds of soldiers. The Marines found a cave in the rocks where they could rest and think. Jake told everyone to stay quiet while he tried to figure out what to do next. He looked at his team and saw good soldiers who trusted him to get them out of this mess. But Jake had never faced anything like this before. Steve Miller was their communications expert. He tried to fix their radio to call for help, but something was jamming all signals. No matter what frequency he used, he only got static. The aliens were making sure no messages could get in or out of the planet. Rick Brown had the best eyes on the team. Jake sent him to watch the entrance of the cave while the others planned their next move. Rick came back after an hour with bad news. He said alien soldiers were searching every cave and building in the area. They were moving in organized groups and checking everything. Jake realized they could not stay in the cave much longer. He decided to move deeper into the mountains where there were old mining tunnels. The tunnels went for miles underground and had many different exits. If they could reach the mines, they might be able to hide for a while. The team moved carefully through the rocks, staying low and quiet. Jake used his scout training to pick the safest path. They had to stop several times when alien aircraft flew overhead. The ships had bright lights that could spot them if they were not careful. As they traveled, Jake got his first good look at the alien soldiers. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved fast and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Jake counted at least 20 different types of aliens working together. Some were big and strong, others were small and quick. Pete Davis whispered to Jake that he had never seen so many different kinds of aliens before. Earth scientists had found signs of alien life, but they had never made contact with any other species. Now it looked like many alien races were working together to attack human colonies. The Marines reached the old mining complex just as the sun was setting. The mines had been abandoned for 5 years when the easy metals ran out. Most of the buildings were falling down, but the tunnels were still solid. Jake led his team into the deepest tunnel he could find. In the underground tunnels, the Marines could finally rest and talk freely. Matt Wilson asked Jake what he thought the aliens wanted. Jake said he was not sure, but it looked like they wanted to kill all humans. The way they destroyed New Montana so completely showed they were not interested in taking prisoners. Dan Taylor found some old mining equipment that still worked. There were lights, tools, and even some food left behind by the miners. The team set up a small camp in a large cave deep in the mountain. They would be safe here for a while, but Jake knew they could not hide forever. Chris Lee was looking at his weapon when he asked Jake how they could fight so many enemies. Jake had been thinking about the same thing. 8 Marines against thousands of aliens seemed impossible, but Jake remembered his training. Sometimes a small group could do things that a big army could not. Jake told his team that they were not going to try to fight all the aliens at once. Instead, they would hit small groups and then disappear. They would make the aliens afraid and confused. It was a dangerous plan, but it was their only chance. The next morning, Jake took Tony and Steve with him to scout the alien positions. They left the other 5 Marines in the tunnel to guard their supplies. Jake wanted to learn how the aliens moved and where they were weakest. From a high ridge, Jake could see the entire valley where New Helena used to be. The aliens had built a large camp where the city was. Hundreds of ships were parked in neat rows. Thousands of alien soldiers moved around the camp doing different jobs. Jake noticed that the aliens sent out small patrols to search the surrounding area. Each patrol had about 10 soldiers and 1 flying vehicle for support. The patrols followed the same routes every day and came back to camp at the same times. Tony pointed out that the aliens seemed very organized, but maybe too organized. They did everything the same way every time. Jake realized this might be their weakness. If the aliens always did things the same way, Jake could predict where they would be. Steve found an alien communication device that had been dropped by a patrol. He could not understand the language, but he could hear the aliens talking to each other. The device might be useful for listening to their plans. When Jake and his scouts returned to the tunnel, they found the other Marines working on weapons and equipment. Rick had found some mining explosives that could be turned into bombs. Pete and Matt were making traps from metal scraps and wire. Jake told his team about the alien patrols and his plan to attack them. They would hit one patrol, take their weapons, and disappear before help could arrive. If they did this several times, they might get better equipment and learn more about their enemies. Dan asked Jake what would happen if they got caught. Jake was honest with his team. He said they would probably die, but at least they would hurt the aliens before they died. It was better than hiding in the tunnels until they ran out of food. The Marines spent 3 days preparing for their first attack. They studied the patrol routes and picked the best place for an ambush. Jake chose a narrow canyon where the aliens would have to walk in a single line. Rick and Pete would hide on one side with the explosives. Jake and the others would attack from the other side. On the morning of the attack, Jake felt nervous, but ready. His team had trained for situations like this, even though they had never faced aliens before. Jake knew that what they did today would decide if they lived or died. The alien patrol entered the canyon exactly when Jake expected them to. There were 12 aliens in the group, all carrying those blue energy weapons. Jake waited until they were in the middle of the canyon, then gave the signal to attack. The explosives went off first, blocking the aliens' escape route with falling rocks. Then the Marines opened fire with their pulse rifles. The aliens were surprised and confused. They had not expected humans to attack them. The battle was over in less than 5 minutes. All 12 aliens were dead, and the Marines had captured their weapons and equipment. Jake was amazed at how well the plan had worked. But he knew this was just the beginning, as the Marines collected the alien weapons. Jake heard the sound of aircraft coming toward the canyon. The aliens had noticed that their patrol was missing. Jake shouted for his team to grab what they could and run for the tunnels. The Marines made it back to their hideout just as alien ships began searching the canyon. Jake realized that the aliens would now know that humans were still alive on New Montana. The real war was about to begin. The alien weapons were different from anything Jake had ever seen. The energy guns were lighter than human rifles, but much more powerful. Steve Miller figured out how to use them after studying the dead aliens' hands. The weapons responded to touch and seemed to know who was holding them. Jake's team had been hiding in the mining tunnels for 2 weeks now. They had successfully attacked 3 more alien patrols, each time learning something new about their enemies. The aliens were getting angry and frustrated. They were sending larger patrols and searching harder for the humans. Tony Garcia came back from scouting with troubling news. He said the aliens were bringing in more ships every day. What started as hundreds of ships was now thousands. The aliens were not just searching for Jake's team anymore. They were building up for something much bigger. Rick Brown had been watching the alien camp through stolen binoculars. He told Jake that he could see many different types of alien creatures working together. Some were tall and thin, others were short and thick. Some looked like giant insects, while others seemed to be made of pure energy. Jake realized that this was not just one alien race attacking humans. This was an alliance of many different species working together. That made them much more dangerous than Jake had first thought. It also meant that this attack on New Montana was probably happening on other human colonies too. The Marines had learned to use several types of alien equipment. Pete Davis became expert with their communication devices. He could now listen to alien radio traffic and understand some of their simple commands. The aliens used different languages, but they also used a common language for military operations. From listening to the alien communications, Pete learned something that scared everyone. The aliens called this operation Final Cleansing, and they talked about hitting 12 human colonies at the same time. New Montana was just one target in a much larger plan to destroy all humans. Matt Wilson had been working with the alien energy weapons and made an important discovery. The weapons could be modified to work better for humans. By changing some settings, he could make them more accurate and powerful. The modified weapons gave the Marines a real advantage in fights. Jake decided it was time to take bigger risks. His team could not stop the alien invasion by just attacking small patrols. They needed to hit something important, something that would really hurt the alien operation. Jake studied the alien camp and found his target. The aliens had built a large communication center in the middle of their camp. This center controlled all alien ships and ground forces on the planet. If Jake could destroy it, the aliens would lose coordination and become confused. It was a dangerous mission, but it might be their only chance to do real damage. Dan Taylor volunteered to help Jake attack the communication center. Dan was good with explosives and could make bombs from the mining equipment they had found. The plan was simple but dangerous. Jake and Dan would sneak into the camp at night, plant bombs, and escape before the explosives went off. The other Marines would create distractions on the opposite side of the camp to draw attention away from Jake and Dan. It was a plan that required perfect timing and a lot of luck. If anything went wrong, they would all probably die. Chris Lee asked Jake if they should try to contact Earth to warn them about the invasion. Jake wanted to do that, but their communications were still being jammed. Even if they could get a message through, Earth was too far away to help New Montana now. Jake made a difficult decision. He told Tony to take Steve, Rick, and Pete and try to reach the planet's old emergency beacon on the other side of the continent. If they could activate it, they might be able to warn Earth about the invasion. Meanwhile, Jake would take Matt, Dan, and Chris to attack the communication center. Splitting up the team was risky, but Jake felt they had no choice. They needed to try everything they could to stop the aliens, or at least slow them down. Tony's group would leave first thing in the morning. Jake's group would attack the communication center the next night. Before Tony's group left, Jake gave each of them one of the modified alien weapons. He told them to stay alive and get that message to Earth, no matter what happened. Tony promised Jake that they would complete their mission or die trying. After Tony's group left, Jake felt very alone. He only had 3 Marines left with him, and they were about to attempt the most dangerous mission of their lives. Matt, Dan, and Chris were good soldiers, but 4 men against thousands of aliens seemed impossible. Jake spent the day studying the alien camp and planning their attack route. The communication center was heavily guarded, but Jake noticed that the guards changed shifts at midnight. During the shift change, there would be a few minutes when the guards were distracted. That night, Jake led his 3 remaining Marines toward the alien camp. They moved carefully through the darkness, avoiding alien patrols and sensor equipment. Jake used all his scout training to find the safest path through the enemy lines. The alien camp was bigger than it looked from the mountains. There were thousands of creatures moving around, working on ships and equipment. Strange lights and sounds filled the night air. Jake had never seen so many aliens in one place before. Jake and his team reached the communication center just before midnight. The building was tall and covered with alien technology that glowed in different colors. Guards stood at every entrance, and flying vehicles circled overhead. When the guard shift started to change, Jake gave the signal to move. Dan and Chris created a small explosion on the far side of the camp to distract the aliens. Matt and Jake used the confusion to sneak into the communication center. Inside the building, Jake saw technology beyond his understanding. Screens showed images of space battles and alien fleets. Jake realized he was looking at the entire alien invasion plan. Humans were being attacked on dozens of worlds at the same time. Dan's bombs were ready to destroy the communication center, but Jake hesitated. If he destroyed this equipment, he would also destroy the information about the alien invasion. Someone needed to know what the aliens were planning. Jake made a quick decision. He used his portable computer to record as much information as he could from the alien screens. The information was in alien languages, but human scientists might be able to translate it later. After recording everything he could, Jake activated Dan's bombs. The explosion that destroyed the communication center was much bigger than Jake expected. The blast knocked him unconscious and threw him across the room. When he woke up, the building was on fire, and alien soldiers were running everywhere. Jake looked for his teammates, but could not find them. Matt and Dan were nowhere to be seen. Jake was alone in the middle of an alien camp that was now completely alert and looking for him. He grabbed an alien weapon and started fighting his way toward the edge of the camp. The explosion had caused more damage than Jake hoped. Without their communication center, the alien ships and ground forces could not coordinate with each other. Some ships were flying in circles, others were landing randomly. The aliens were confused and angry. Jake fought two groups of alien soldiers as he tried to escape the camp. The modified alien weapon worked perfectly, giving him the firepower he needed to fight his way out. But there were so many enemies that Jake knew he could not win a long battle. As Jake reached the edge of the camp, he heard more explosions behind him. Something big was blowing up, probably fuel storage or weapons. The confusion in the alien camp was getting worse. Jake had succeeded in hurting the aliens, but he was now completely alone. Jake ran into the darkness toward the mountains. Behind him, the alien camp burned and glowed against the night sky. He had lost his entire team, but he had also struck a major blow against the invasion force. Now Jake had to decide what to do next. In his backpack, Jake carried the computer with information about the alien invasion plans. That information might be the key to saving humanity, but only if Jake could find a way to get it to Earth. He was one man against millions of aliens, but he was not ready to give up the fight. Jake Morrison was completely alone now. His entire team was gone. His ship was destroyed, and he was trapped on a planet with millions of hostile aliens. But Jake refused to give up. He had information that could save humanity, and he was going to find a way to use it. For 3 days, Jake hid in the deepest mining tunnels while the aliens searched for him. They were angry about the destruction of their communication center and wanted revenge. Jake could hear their aircraft flying overhead constantly, and their ground patrols were checking every cave and tunnel they could find. Jake used this time to study the information he had stolen from the alien command center. His portable computer had recorded hundreds of screens showing alien battle plans. Even though he could not read their language, Jake could understand maps and numbers. What Jake saw made his blood run cold. The aliens were not just attacking human colonies. They were planning to completely wipe out the human race. The invasion included attacks on Earth itself, with millions of alien ships heading toward humanity's home world. Jake counted at least 50 human colonies under attack. Some had already fallen, just like New Montana. Others were still fighting, but they were all outnumbered and would eventually lose. The aliens had been planning this war for years and had brought overwhelming force to guarantee victory. But Jake also noticed something interesting in the alien plans. The invasion was supposed to be perfectly coordinated, with all alien forces working together at the same time. Jake's destruction of the communication center had disrupted that coordination. Some alien fleets were arriving at their targets too. Early, others too late. Jake realized that the aliens' greatest strength was also their weakness. They had so many different species working together that they needed perfect communication to coordinate their attacks. Without that communication, they would start making mistakes. Jake decided to make the aliens' communication problems much worse. If he could disrupt more of their equipment, he might be able to cause enough confusion to give human defenders a chance to fight back. It was a long shot, but it was better than doing nothing. Jake left the mining tunnels and began a one-man war against the alien communication network. He had learned from studying their technology that the aliens used relay stations to boost their signals across long distances. If Jake could destroy enough relay stations, their communications would break down completely. The first relay station Jake attacked was built on top of a hill overlooking the main alien camp. Jake approached it at night, moving carefully to avoid the guards. The station was defended by only 6 aliens, but they were alert and well-armed. Jake used the alien energy weapon he had modified to take out the guards silently. Then he planted explosives throughout the relay station and retreated to a safe distance. When the station exploded, it created a spectacular light show. It could be seen for miles. The destruction of the relay station had immediate effects. Jake watched through binoculars as alien ships in the valley began flying in confused patterns. Some ships tried to land while others tried to take off. 2 ships actually crashed into each other because their pilots could not coordinate properly. Encouraged by this success, Jake began hunting for more relay stations. Over the next week, he destroyed 4 more stations using hit-and-run tactics. Each attack made the aliens more frustrated and disorganized. They were sending larger patrols to hunt for Jake, but they could not coordinate those patrols effectively. Jake noticed that different alien species were starting to blame each other for the communication failures. He saw fights breaking out between different groups of aliens in their camp. A tall gray alien seemed to be in charge, but the insect-like aliens were refusing to follow some orders. Jake decided to make the situation worse by planting false evidence. He used alien weapons to attack an outpost defended by the gray aliens, but he left behind equipment that belonged to the insect aliens. When the gray aliens found the evidence, they assumed they had been betrayed by their allies. The next day, Jake watched as different alien species began fighting each other openly. The gray aliens attacked an insect alien position with energy weapons. The insect aliens fought back with their own strange weapons that shot acid. Other alien species chose sides or tried to stay neutral. Jake realized he had accidentally started a civil war among the aliens. Their alliance was falling apart because they could not trust each other without proper communication. Jake decided to make the problem even worse by attacking more targets and leaving confusing evidence. Jake's next target was an alien supply depot that stored fuel and weapons for the invasion fleet. The depot was guarded by a mixed group of different alien species. Jake waited until night, then attacked the depot with explosives and alien weapons. During the attack, Jake made sure to use weapons from several different alien species. He left some gray alien equipment near the bodies of insect aliens and some insect alien weapons near dead gray aliens. When other aliens found the scene, they would think their allies had betrayed them. The explosion at the supply depot was huge. Jake had hit their main fuel storage, and the fire burned for hours. The light from the fire could be seen across the entire continent. More importantly, the aliens now had much less fuel for their ships and vehicles. Jake's sabotage campaign was working better than he had hoped. The alien invasion force was now completely disorganized. Different species were fighting each other instead of searching for human survivors. Many alien ships had left the planet to avoid getting caught in the fighting, but Jake also knew that his luck could not last forever. The aliens were getting smarter about protecting their important facilities. They were posting mixed guards from different species so that no single group could betray the others without being caught. Jake decided to attempt his most ambitious attack yet. The aliens had built a massive command ship that was coordinating all remaining forces on the planet. If Jake could destroy or capture that ship, he might be able to completely break up the alien invasion force. The command ship was the size of a city and heavily defended. Hundreds of alien soldiers guarded it, and weapon systems protected it from air and ground attacks. Getting close to the ship seemed impossible, but Jake had noticed something important, that the command ship needed to land periodically to take on supplies and personnel. When it landed, there was a brief window when its shields were lowered and cargo doors were opened. If Jake could get inside during that window, he might be able to plant explosives or steal important information. Jake spent 2 days watching the command ship's landing patterns. It came down at the same location every 3 days, always at dawn. When visibility was poor, Jake planned his attack for the next landing, knowing it would probably be his last mission one way or another. On the morning of the attack, Jake positioned himself near the landing zone before sunrise. He was carrying all the explosives he could find, plus the alien weapons he had modified for maximum power. If he was going to die, he planned to take as many aliens with him as possible. The command ship descended from the clouds like a flying mountain. It was even bigger than Jake had thought, with weapons and sensors covering every surface. As the ship touched down, cargo doors opened and hundreds of aliens began moving supplies in and out. Jake waited for the perfect moment, then sprinted toward the nearest cargo door. Alien guards spotted him and opened fire, but Jake was ready for them. He fought his way through the guards and dove through the cargo door just as it was starting to close. Inside the command ship, Jake found himself in a maze of corridors and chambers filled with alien technology. Alarms were blaring and aliens were running everywhere looking for the human intruder. Jake had only minutes before they would find him and kill him. Jake planted explosives as he ran through the ship, trying to find the most important systems to destroy. He found what looked like the main computer center and placed his largest bomb there. If he could destroy the alien command computers, it would cripple their remaining forces. As Jake was setting the final bomb, a group of alien soldiers cornered him in the computer center. Jake was outnumbered 10-1 and had nowhere to run. He raised his weapon and prepared to make his last stand, but then something unexpected happened that would change everything. The alien soldiers stopped shooting when their leader held up one of his forearms. The leader was one of the tall gray aliens that seemed to be in charge of the invasion. He looked at Jake with large black eyes that showed intelligence and something that might have been respect. The alien leader spoke in perfect English, which surprised Jake. The alien said his name was Commander Zex, and that he had been studying human behavior since the invasion began. He told Jake that no single creature had ever caused so much trouble for the Zephyrian Empire. Jake kept his weapon pointed at the aliens, but did not shoot. He was curious about what the alien commander wanted to say. Commander Zex explained that Jake had accidentally done something that the Zephyrian Empire had thought was impossible. He had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds by bringing together 12 different alien species with different abilities. Each species was good at different types of warfare, and together they were unstoppable. But their alliance only worked when they could communicate and coordinate perfectly. Commander Zex told Jake that his attacks on communication systems had done more than just disrupt their signals. Jake had made the different alien species remember old conflicts and prejudices they had against each other. Species that had been allies for centuries were now fighting like enemies. Jake realized that the alien commander was not trying to capture him. Commander Zex was trying to understand how one human had caused so much damage to their empire. Jake decided to tell the alien the truth about why he had fought so hard. Jake explained that humans never give up when their families and friends are threatened. He told Commander Zex about the 50,000 innocent people who had lived on New Montana before the aliens destroyed them. He talked about his teammates who had died fighting to protect their home world. Commander Zex listened carefully to everything Jake said. Then he told Jake something that changed everything. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked humans because they were afraid of what humans might become in the future. They had seen human expansion into space and decided to destroy humanity before humans became a threat. But Commander Zex said that Jake had shown the Zephyrian Empire something they had not expected. Humans were not just another species that could be easily conquered. Humans had qualities that made them dangerous in ways the aliens had not understood. Commander Zex explained that most species gave up when faced with overwhelming odds. They surrendered to save their lives and accepted defeat. But humans seemed to fight harder when things got worse. The more hopeless the situation became, the more creative and determined humans became. Jake asked Commander Zex what would happen to humanity now. The alien commander said that the invasion was falling apart because of Jake's actions. Different alien species were fighting each other instead of attacking human colonies. Many alien fleets had retreated to avoid getting caught in the civil wars. But Commander Zex also warned Jake that some alien species wanted to continue the war against humans. They believed that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to survive. These species would keep trying to destroy humanity even without the support of the full Zephyrian Empire. Jake realized that his fight was not over yet. Even if he had disrupted the main invasion, there would still be alien enemies trying to wipe out the human race. He asked Commander Zex what he could do to protect his people. Commander Zex made Jake an offer that no human had ever received before. He said that some alien species in the Zephyrian Empire respected what Jake had accomplished. These species wanted to make peace with humanity and even become allies against the species that still wanted war. Jake was suspicious of the offer. He asked Commander Zex why he should trust aliens who had just tried to commit genocide against his people. The alien commander admitted that the Zephyrian Empire had made a terrible mistake by attacking humans without trying to understand them first. Commander Zex said that Jake's actions had taught the aliens an important lesson about humanity. Humans were not just another primitive species that could be easily conquered. They were a people who would never stop fighting for their freedom and their families. Jake thought about the offer while keeping his weapon ready. He knew that he could not fight the entire alien empire by himself forever. If some aliens wanted peace, maybe that was humanity's best chance for survival. Before Jake could answer, explosions shook the command ship. Jake's bombs were going off throughout the vessel, and the ship was starting to fall apart. Commander Zex ordered his soldiers to evacuate while he continued talking to Jake. Commander Zex told Jake that there was an escape pod that could take him safely off the ship. But first, the alien commander wanted Jake to take a communication device that would let him contact the peaceful alien species. If humans wanted to make allies among the aliens, this device would make it possible. Jake took the communication device but kept his weapon pointed at Commander Zex. He asked the alien commander why he was helping a human who had killed so many of his soldiers. Commander Zex said that Jake had earned the right to survive through his courage and skill in battle. Jake made his way to the escape pod as the command ship broke apart around him. Through the pod's windows, he could see alien ships fighting each other in the sky above New Montana. His plan to turn the aliens against each other had worked even better than he had hoped. The escape pod landed in the mountains, near Jake's old hideout. Jake climbed out and watched as the massive command ship crashed into the alien base camp. The explosion was so bright that it lit up the entire sky. Jake had finally struck a blow that the aliens would never forget. Over the next few days, Jake watched as the alien invasion force completely fell apart. Different species fought battles across the planet, while others packed up and left. Within a week, most of the aliens were gone, and New Montana was quiet again. Jake used the communication device to contact Earth and warn them about the invasion. He transmitted all the information he had stolen from the alien computers, including the locations of other human colonies under attack. Earth's military could now prepare defenses and rescue missions. But Jake also transmitted Commander Zex's offer of peace with some alien species. It would be up to Earth's leaders to decide whether to trust former enemies. Jake had done everything he could to protect humanity. Now others would have to carry on the fight. 3 months later, a human rescue ship found Jake still living in the mountains of New Montana. The ship's captain, Lisa Hayes, could hardly believe that one Marine had survived against such overwhelming odds. Jake was famous throughout human space as the man who had saved the human race. Captain Hayes told Jake that his actions had indeed saved humanity. The alien invasion had collapsed when their alliance broke apart. Several alien species had contacted Earth asking for peace treaties. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. Jake looked out at the empty ruins of New Helena and thought about all the people who had died there. His teammates, the colonists, everyone on the UCS Ranger. They would never know that their sacrifice had led to humanity's survival and first contact with friendly alien species Dot as the rescue ship carried Jake away from New Montana. He thought about the future. Humans would face new challenges as they met other species among the stars. But Jake had proven that humans would never give up, no matter how bad things got. The war against 12 million aliens was over. One human had been enough to turn the tide of battle and save his entire species. Jake Morrison had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.